Thank you for joining us for our April Showcase Short Block Q&A. We are so excited to have the four filmmakers behind these films with us today to talk about their films. All of these filmmakers are in the competition for our 6-month Women to Women in Film Mentorship Program. The mentor we have for our April Showcase is Cecilia Albertini. She's an Italian award-winning filmmaker. Awards will be announced a week from today, actually. Before we get started in the Q&A, I just wanted to, give a quick introduction. The filmmakers that are here with us today are Anna Frederik Bjerk. She is Norwegian, so I'm sorry, Anna, if I said it incorrectly. You can correct me when you come up to the screen. She did the short film Other People. Michelle Hernandez, who did the film DOUK. Sydney Morgan, she did HUES and Hidden Kings, and Emma Thatcher, she did FLETCHER, and she's joined today by the star of the film, co-writer and co-producer Connor Allen Smith. The Q&A will be moderated by, I think we're pals. I would say Deborah Goodwin is a good friend of mine. She's an award-winning screenwriter and filmmaker. She's a Sundance Collab advisor and a screenwriting professor at Brooklyn College. She is known for her films Vampires in Venice and The Pastor, and she's just awesome. So I'm going to let everybody come to the screen, and I'll say goodbye for now and see you at the end of the Q&A. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. So great to be able to watch all of your films. That was really a treat. And I love what Rebecca's doing, obviously not alone, but but she seems to be single-handedly finding the new generation of filmmakers. So that's kind of a nice thing. So I thought we would just talk about something that I found in common with all of your films, just to get us rolling, which seemed to be time, which funnily enough, I was talking to my Sundance students about the fact that we control time in our films and in our scripts, and that's such a big part of how we experience a film, is how the time is related. So I was thinking about Other People and Anna's film, and sort of the good time, or the time in youth that is wasted on the young, and the idea that I thought your cutting, particularly in this film, was very bold. It was, really, quite ingenious, and such a big ensemble as well. For a short film, there's a lot of people in this movie and a lot of moving parts. So I thought maybe you could speak a little bit to that, about the decision to sort of attack it in that way.
Yeah, sure. So I think first and foremost, I wanted to make a film about teenagers. And for me, it was very natural to create an ensemble piece and put all of these teenagers together and try to capture an emotion more than anything, really. Try and sort of package all of these feelings that, these teenagers are experiencing, these different identities that they're trying on, and figuring out what they don't like, what they like, how they are struggling to communicate with one another. And so, but to talk about the time concept of that, I think that might be how that comes across, is because it is more fleeting, maybe, and very like dreamy in its approach, I guess. And yeah, working with such a big ensemble of actors who, well, some of them had done some stuff in the past, but most of them were non-professional actors, which was a good challenge, a welcomed challenge, and just, a brilliant experience to have had, because they were so eager and like threw themselves like so fully into the experience as well. So yeah, overall it was
Yeah, really nice casting as well. It just felt so often you see teenage movies where, you know, the teenagers are a little long in the tooth. So, you know, sort of are like the 30-year-old teenagers. So it was really nice to see young people playing young people.
Yeah, they're all teenagers. They're all the actual age that they're playing, not 25 or 30.
Yeah, that was great. And then in Emma's, and welcome Connor as well, co-writer, co-star of Fletcher. I thought this was a great, because it's, you know, the time is the one night stand, the sort of before and after time, which I felt like you just did such a wonderful job of finding these natural rhythms for this kind of circular conversation, and the range of emotions to circle back through, which was, I just thought really lovely, and the pacing of it is wonderful as well. And I saw that you sort of, you know, there's a lot of improv that goes into kind of creating these moments, which was really fresh. And I know some people would refer to this as mumblecore, but it kind of, to me, it just felt like real people, you know, we're in the room with some real people. So I just wondered, what made you think about, first of all, the ending, which I think is really a nice surprise. It's a great twist. It's a great reversal. But maybe you could just speak to the whole piece of what inspired you and all of that good stuff.
I mean, I've definitely been very inspired by the mumblecore movement, like Lynn Shelton and the Duplass brothers, and I love Funny Ha Ha. It's one of my favorite movies. And you said that it feels like you're just watching people in a room, and that's kind of what was happening, because I had set up, like, you know, just a couple lanterns like this one, and it was just like me with the camera and then one buddy on sound. So I really just got to like have like a smaller camera too, and just like watch them improvise and be themselves and have really cool, spontaneous, natural moments. And then I attribute some of the pacing to our editor. I had the idea of using jump cuts to kind of get us through some of the improv so we could give it some structure.
Right.
Evelyn just has she has such good pacing.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yes, incredible. Come just a touch closer to your mic so we're not losing you. Thank you. The beauty of Zoom. So you wrote this together. Did you come to it with the improv style, like we improv and then we choose what to script?
We came up with backstory. That's kind of how we've been.
Well, yeah, you referenced those filmmakers, and I remember this was only after about like a month after we had met when we decided to work with each other. And like we just like the impetus of it all was like getting coffee and being like, oh, I love the Duplass brothers. I watched those like at an important age, Cassavetes, etc. All this like kind of movement. And we're like, well, why don't we just do that? Like you have the camera and we have like kind of the idea. And so we mapped out one time with my co-actor, Allison Womack. And we mapped out beats and characters. But then literally when we were in the room, we decided just to go with it and just figure out what it was. So we had the idea of like preparing breakfast as a beat, and we decided that the end we would just find on the day of. And so we really just got lucky that we were off in a good mood and wanted to end that way, I guess.
Yes, luck has a lot to do with it. I have to say, I also really love the opening of this film. So I was just wondering, was that a happy accident or was that a planned?
Opening the walk and talk across the street.
Mm-hmm.
I love walk and talks. I love hearing the characters before you see all of them. I love like seeing like, especially with like one night stands and like if you're kind of drunk, you get to see all the playfulness in their full body. So that's just something I really love. And I was like, all right.
Yeah, that was definitely, it's definitely a highlight of the film, of seeing their sort of romantic side and their, you know, when you're tipsy and you're feeling super confident and sexy and kind of like you're in your own rom-com, and then it's like, boom, the next day. So that was awesome. It was really, really entertaining. So Michelle Hernandez, just to switch gears hugely into this very naturalistic, very, absorbing sort of thriller. It was, in terms of the time element, it really felt like, okay, you are waiting for this very awful thing to happen to this family, surrounded by all this beauty. So I was wondering, just first of all, where you came up with, what inspired you with this story?
Yeah, so I am Native American. I'm Wia from Northern California, and this is a history. It's, not a lot of people know about the boarding school experience.
Right.
So I usually give a whole history lesson. I'm going to try to make it real short. But in 1870, the first boarding school started. And then in 1970, the last boarding school started, which is about 50 years ago. It closed, the last one. And so this is a history that I've known since I was a child, because my great grandmother was one of these children that were taken. And a lot of these schools were not great. They abused the children there. There's a lot of physical and mental abuse that happened. And so I knew about this history, but at the time I was making DOUK, I was actually in Washington, D.C. I'm getting my graduate's degree. And I had asked a lot of people, do you know about this history? And I got a lot of no's, which is surprising because DC is our capital. Yeah. And a lot of people should know this history. And so that's kind of what made me want to make this short film, was that it was accessible to other people so they could quickly learn about the boarding schools. But that's what inspired my film.
Okay. And you were also using non-professional actors? Yeah,
so all the adults are professionals. The youngest, the one who plays Irene, is actually my younger sister. And then the one who plays Wanda is my little cousin.
Yeah, they just had a wonderful rapport. And I wondered if they were actually related. So that was interesting. So it's a very quiet film, given the topic. So I thought that was a great choice because it was easy to go into histrionics with, like, the kids are going to be taken and, this whole thing. And it stayed very quiet and very, very centered on the family, on the emotional journey of the family. And so I'm curious, is it something you think you might develop into a longer piece?
Yeah, so I am going to work. Right now I'm putting a break on DOUK because there was a lot to deal with, a lot to write, just because it's a history that I've known. I also talk to a lot of elders, but the goal is eventually in a year or two to write a feature on it, to go more into the story. The only reason I didn't go into boarding schools is because there's so many docs on it. And it's just something I'm very tired of watching all the time. And we never really focus on families, especially Native families, and the effects that these boarding schools had. And so I wanted to dive more into that and just make people realize that I guess we as Native people are seen as this historical beings that were not really present today because the way we're shown. And so I wanted to say, no, we're real people and this is our story. So this is what I want to tell.
So I encourage you to, submit to the lab when you do it to Sundance, when you get to that stage. And then I just wanted to ask about DOUK, the name.
Yeah. So DOUK means sibling in my language. My language is Siletluk. So we don't really have a specific term for sisters or brothers, and the original title of DOUK was sisters. But I really wanted to incorporate my language, which I'm trying to learn at this moment. So I titled it DOUK. Originally, the goal was to have all of it translated in Siletluk. Unfortunately, we are recovering our language, so that was a longer process. But I'm hoping the feature will be able to be in our language.
Well, lovely, lovely work. And Sydney Morgan, who has made a kind of incredible movement poem. What are you calling this? It's kind of a hybrid of dance and poetry and.
Yeah, at first I didn't really know what to call it. It's basically kind of like a representation of me, because I started off as a dancer. Then I became I started writing poetry in high school, and then I took it on for college when I wrote Houston Hidden Kings, to put everything that I do in one. I've had someone tell me that the film, they see it as like rhythm in motion. So that's what I call it. It's just a composite of me and what's in my crazy head. And I was just able to put it on screen.
Well, I love the choices that you made, because you didn't, dance film or any kind of movement like that can be really challenging. And for some reason, the contained way that you chose to shoot it really, I thought, was really powerful. And also in terms of time, this kind of, you felt like you were moving through many generations, sort of ancestral time, I called it, when I was writing little notes as I'm watching the films. But so, was there anything representational about the male characters particularly? Because the females all felt like one voice with many kind of hues, but the men felt like they were representational. And I just thought maybe you could speak to that.
I was very, I wanted the men to really be themselves, surprisingly, because, society sees, Black males a certain way. I wanted them specifically to dress up how they would dress up in their regular day lives. I wanted them to know that when they're walking down the street, what you're wearing, you're still a king. You don't have to have a crown and a robe to represent that. But when I watch it internally, sometimes when you write, and I feel like with the DOUK, I even saw that when you write, your ancestral being comes into it. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that. Yet I told them to be themselves. I see like leaders within them. Like I see Malcolm X, I see Martin Luther King, and you don't realize like all these people are what inspired me, us. And yet when I'm looking at it, I'm telling them to be them, but I'm seeing great giants that came before us representing us still. Yeah.
Pretty powerful. So thank you. I am going to pivot just to female filmmakers. Here we are. Sorry, Connor. You get to be part of that. But do you think there is a female gaze, given the subject matter that you chose and the way you chose to really represent, like Anna, for instance, female sexuality is at the forefront of the story. So do you think there is a difference between how women see these stories and how men might see them or have seen them?
Yes, it would be the immediate answer, but I don't necessarily think that it's fixed in that way. When I think of the male gaze, it's very much like, a sexualized like woman on screen, whereas the female gaze tends to be like, in my experience, maybe more emotional, but that doesn't mean that can't come from other genders. But with other people in particular, these are young, kids coming into their own, and in the character Emma's case, for instance, like she is, exploring her sexuality and doing it in a way that, I didn't want it to be with judgment or in a sort of shameful way. I just wanted it to be like beautiful and natural. And on the other side of that is the character Selma, who is figuring herself out, but she's coming from a place that is like, she's deeply insecure, and she's offering all these like sexual favors to the guys at school or at this party. And in her case as well, I didn't want it to be like any judgment or any negative sort of connotation to that. I kind of lost my train of thought here.
It's okay.
But yeah, I guess to answer your question, yeah, I think there is, a female gaze.
I think that was the joy of watching that, your film, as so much of it was the internalized feeling about yourself. I felt like that really came across as, how do we feel about ourselves in these situations when we're just starting that exploration? And that really, it was just very fascinating to watch that unfold. In the same way, I feel like Emma's film FLETCHER really focused on the very small things were recognized. I mean, I think there's one moment where the characters are sitting on this stool. Oh, by the way, I learned how to make an omelet from your movie. I was like, that's how it works. Anyway, I won't spoil it for those who are going to watch it. But there's a moment where the characters are sitting on these stools and we just see their feet kind of, moving around each other. And I thought, that was just such a lovely detail. It's such a great observation about, when you literally like feeling around someone you don't really know yet, but you want to know them. And so it was just a great moment. So to you, is there a female gaze?
I think, yes, absolutely. I think I'm a kind of a hypersensitive person, whether that's because I'm a woman or an artist or I go to therapy or something, I don't know. But so inserts like that, like touching feet or something, it really is like when like you're falling in love, like it really is like how you feel. And I like when your feelings are, when you can accentuate those feelings like as a shot and just like focus in on those things. I also just like love small details. Like I don't even watch many action movies at all. I think they're really boring. But for like small movies where like the characters like touch hands for the first time, I'm just like, oh, holy shit. And yeah, I think that sensitivity definitely comes from my femininity. So, yeah.
What about you, Michelle?
I think there is a female gaze, and like Anna and Emma have said, I think it's more of an emotional. And I think, because I was thinking if Amel had made Duke, I think it would have been more dramatic.
Right.
Duke is more of a very slow paced movie, and you're getting to the ending of it all. And so you feel more for the family, and there's an emotion there that she's trying to deal with it quietly. But also trying to protect her family as well. But yeah, there for sure is a female gaze.
So does that translate to the male characters? Because I feel like it did in this case. I feel like the father in Michelle's is very, he's very sensitive and very thoughtful, and it wasn't like, you girls have to do this or that, it was very much kind of the mother who really at the end of the day tells them, this is what's going to happen and get prepared. And it's like he's very much sort of torn, he seemed very torn as a character in a way that we don't always see men reflecting. And I felt like in your film also, Emma, we know the kind of humor behind the one night stand thing, like we've seen that done really well, but for me, I was really moved by how, and Connor, forgive me, but there was sort of like the character just like, he really didn't realize that he messed up, like that wasn't going to be cool. Like, and it really hurt him. And you sort of saw this transformation of him going from like, oh, like, oh, this really sucks for you. And I feel like that was such a very real moment. And I rarely, if never, seen that captured. So I thought you were very good in this, Connor, by the way.
It definitely goes to Emma's direction, and my scene partner Allison is one of my favorite actors.
Amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's great.
So just trying to keep up with them is my thing. And I also have a partner in real life who's Femme, and being able to grow with her and like just be emotionally, not that she is, I don't know, her job is to train me or anything, but having a really healthy relationship with her has like really made me observant to interact with collaborators. Or yeah.
Well, you know, film doesn't lie, and so you can only pick up what is there, you know, and that thoughtfulness was really something, which I also felt in Sydney. The male characters were very profound. There's one moment where there's just one character who looks to either side, and it's a brilliant moment. So questions for the audience if we have time. And oh yes, Sydney, about the choice of music, if you could just speak for that for a moment before we open it up. Yes.
Well, it's crazy that you asked me that. Thank you for that question. The song came from the movie A Birth of a Nation by Nate Parker, and Wiley College did the song I Couldn't Hear Nobody Pray. I went to go see that film. Tears came down my face. And it's the ending of A Birth of a Nation. And that same night, I wrote the poem for HUES and Hidden Kings. So that's how it started. So the film was inspired by the song, and that's how the rhythm of everything just happened. And I was contacted by the man who was the conductor and wrote I Couldn't Hear Nobody Pray. He rearranged it, and he said that the song is inspired by like the backwoods of a church back in like the beginnings of, when slaves are starting to learn English and starting to like understand and come up. The church was the inspiration for the culture. And that's where my family comes from, the South. And I just understood it. I studied every beat, every hum. And it just shows the history of us over time, of how we've developed, how we've advanced. And it just shows the strength of who we are as a people. And it's the base and the foundation of the film.
Yeah, it's amazing. Let's see. I guess I want to ask you how you feel about the landscape of film right now, because we have so much of our own storytelling that's ready to go. But are you feeling hopeful? Are you feeling inspired? Are you feeling a little bit of trepidation about how things are right now? Anybody can jump in.
I frequently get very upset by it. I think there are too many movies with huge budgets. I won't name any names, but people could be making like hundreds of movies for the budget of one, and it's so frustrating that we have to put all of that money and all of those resources into like remakes or like, in the universes that they're creating. Like, it's just really frustrating that there's a lack of diversity within the films going out there. And you'd think that with streaming services, like there would just be more different kinds of movies, but it's not always the case.
Yeah, for sure. Anna, what's it like in terms of the international scene?
Right. The international scene. Well, I can speak to, or try to at least speak to Norway. I mean, we do have a great public funding system here. We have like various regional film centers. We have a National Film Institute, which actually funded other people. So, and I've been very fortunate in that regards with this film and previous projects as well. And there are a lot of great, throughout Europe, really, great funding opportunities for filmmakers, making short films, making feature films. But what Emma said like does echo over here as well, and it is frustrating. So yeah, that's what I have to add to that.
Yeah, I don't envy people who are just entering this world now, but I do think that it's really going to change. I think that there's something dramatically shifting, partly because of the pandemic, but it was already happening. And so it'll be really interesting to see how that gets navigated. Can we just do a little shout out for what's coming up next for you all? Emma?
I'm making a feature and we start production on Wednesday.
Great. Woohoo. What about you, Michelle?
Couple projects. So I actually recently got put on as a co-artistic director for 5 short films. I'm bringing 5 teams together to create short films on a native artist, Rick Bartow. And it's an awesome opportunity because as filmmakers, we know how hard it is to raise funding. So I'm actually allowed to give them funding and be like, you don't have to.
Yes.
Yeah. So
you get a car and you get a car. That's great.
Yeah, I'm working on that. And then I'm working on my first animation and a web series.
Wow, terrific. What about you, Sydney?
So right now I am working on my one-woman show called Raw, Regal, and Real. And the show is a film that's going to be in a theatrical setting. So right now I've raised the money and everything to get that funded. And right now we're in the position of editing. And once things in LA are starting to open back up, I just texted my director like, hey, like maybe we can meet up so we can get the film and me in the theater kind of working and doing rehearsal to get it out there.
Great. Wonderful. Anna?
I'm developing my first feature right now. I'm very excited about. Currently participating with the project in the Torino Film Festival, and then I'm also developing a TV series with a production company here in Oslo. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it has been an incredible joy to meet all of you and to watch your movies.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, I just want to thank you all for watching today, those who could watch. And all of these films are available to watch until the end of the month, which is very exciting. And tomorrow I talk to Chris Ray, which is cool. And yeah, that's it for now. But thank you so much. And thank you, amazing filmmakers, for just being a part of this. And I'm very excited for your careers and where you're going. And thank you, Deborah, for moderating. You did an awesome job. Great questions. And yeah, I guess we'll catch you, or I'll catch you tomorrow. Have a good day, everyone.
Good luck.
Okay.